Welcome to another edition of the Willy Bragg Show. I am your host, Willy Bragg, and during the month of June, it's Pride Month, and in commemoration of Pride Month, we're going to focus on Pride Month with a series of our guests during the month of June. So, welcome back to the show, Catherine Anne McCloskey. Will you like to go and reintroduce yourself? I think my audience know who you are, but for those who are newbies to my show, go ahead and introduce yourself, and we'll get started underway.
I am Dr. Catherine Anne McCloskey, or much more informally, Catty Ann, and let's say I hold a degree in comparative political economy, and currently I'm busying myself with being the National Secretary of the Socialist Party of America, and we're working on disarmament. What else? Oh, I was to be the musical entertainment for our Pride celebration this Saturday, but they had to postpone it.
Okay, so all right, and you're a veteran activist, and I've known you. We never met in person, but I've known you for 20 years, and yeah, absolutely, and you have a lot of stories that you have shared over the years, and you met a lot of well-known people. And I'm just always impressed with a lot of these stories that you tell us. Even I'm sorry for your foot in 1980 when Henry Kissinger stepped on your foot, but
he not only stepped on my foot, he bumped into me.
He's not
a very tall man, and he walked straight into me, stepping on my foot, slamming his chest into my stomach. And then he just stepped to the side and walked away, like he never said excuse me or anything else.
Wow. Yeah. He's going to live to be, he's probably going to live to be 150 years old. I mean, it's just crazy how he was an absolute asshole maybe not in his personal temperament, but in what he's done. He's got a lot of blood on his hands and everything, and maybe in his late stage of life, maybe his conscience is bothering him, and he's thinking it's absolute insanity to go and to have for one country to go and essentially fuck with another country that has nuclear weapons, and so it puts him on a kill list along with several hundred other people, which
we'll be on it eventually.
I suspect so. I got trolled by some NAFOs earlier this morning on Twitter, so I got my first taste of NAFOs. So
what's a NAFO?
North Atlantic. What's it? Let's see. North Atlantic Fellows Organization is a troll farm that's set up, and they got these little I forgot what kind of dogs they are. They're like these Siberian dogs, I believe. I forgot what you call those dogs, and they're in these uniforms. And as the default photo on these Twitter profiles, and they basically troll people who are anywhere from overtly pro-Putin people to people who are pacifists and just critical of U.S. foreign policy toward Ukraine, Russia. They're not even necessarily pro-Putin, where I would be, politically. And anybody that fits in that range and anything in between, NAFOs tend to troll the hell out of.
Well, I'll have to expect them then.
Yeah, I think Garland Nixon said he's been trolled quite a bit by them, and I know that a lot of people who are like highly critical of the war online, they tend to be harassed by these misfits.
Michael Harrington used to say that if he went to the moon, when he got off the ship, somebody from the Spartacus League would run up to him and say, "You killed Rosa Luxemburg."
Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. Wow. I remember that story. So, but as I said, being that it's Pride Month and everything, I will. If you want to go ahead and share your experience as a socialist, as a transgender woman, and a veteran activist, how it all connects from your early life on to the present, and what can be done to keep the progress that's been made in recent years and to stop the rollbacks now.
I'll tell you, Willie, I'm afraid. I am truly afraid. What's going on in Florida is it's fascism. If
Yes.
you're trans and you live in Florida, you cannot get your prescriptions refilled, which is just outrageous. If anybody wants more information on that, my friend Zinnia Jones has a blog called Gender Analysis, and she lays everything out about what's going on in Florida. Uh, I don't understand those people on the left who just want to gloss over the condition of the queer community.
I don't
Well,
understand it either.
we got to concentrate on class. Well, yeah, and if you want to organize a class, you try to get the people who feel the contradictions of class most strongly. Obviously, in the United States, that's queers.
Yeah.
Bayard Rustin said, "We're the new niggers."
Yeah, well, we better be careful how we use that word. But I know the reference and and all of that. But that word could get us in trouble.
Well, that's why I prefaced it by saying Bayard Rustin said it, not me.
Yeah. A lot of people don't know who Bear Rustin is, and
Okay, Bayard Rustin was the guy who organized the 1963 March on Washington for Jobs and Justice. Was the national secretary of the War Resisters League. Spent time on a chain gang fighting for desegregation. He was black, and he was gay. Very open about it, and I'm lucky enough to say he was my friend.
Yep. Yes. And Bear Rustin is a very important person, and that doesn't really ever get discussed. And I mean, and I said this to JB from RBN when he was here a couple of months ago being interviewed, that one of the problems about Black History Month that I've always taken issue with was the omission of Bear Rustin and A. Randolph. And let me do this for everybody so they'll know who we are talking about. So let's see, Bear Rustin. Let's find a nice photo of Bear Rustin. Here we go. That's a nice photo.
That's the Bayard I remember.
Yeah, that's Bear Rustin right there. Yes, and he was the one that basically taught MLK or convinced him to choose the path of non-violent direct action.
Mm-hmm.
And because Martin Luther King, for what I've read, was sort of in a crossroads, and I can understand where he felt like he was sort of in a crossroads back in I guess in the 1950s, where do we go from here?
Someone bombed his house.
Yes,
King's house.
And so it was Bayard Rustin, and Bayard Rustin doesn't get the proper respect, proper love, proper recognition. And this man was one of the high architects of the modern civil rights movement.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And he pulled off the 63 Civil Rights March using friends of his from the peace and socialist community. And he was the chairman of the Social Democrats USA up until his death.
Yep. And the late David McReynolds knew him pretty well.
We worked together.
Yeah. So, so as I said, it just, and that was the thing about David when he was alive. It was like talking to history.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It was.
Yeah. I mean, and it may not be a history that most mainstream Americans recognize, but it's a history that is actually, I felt like, it always been very important and not properly recognized and given its due in America.
Well, if it wasn't for the gentleman on the screen right now, if it wasn't for Rustin, nobody would know about King's Dream. There wouldn't have been a 63 Civil Rights March, and it wouldn't have gotten the publicity it did, and Dr. King would not have been able to give his I Have a Dream speech and have it heard by millions. Bayard's responsible for that.
But he was hidden because of his homosexuality, which was not an open matter back in those days. Not even among progressives, the left, or whatever you wanted to find them to be.
Well, Adam Clayton Powell said he would reveal that Bayard had been arrested for propositioning another man if he was the titular organizer of the march in 1963. So A. Philip Randolph was the titular march organizer, but Bayard Rustin did the work.
Yes. Oh. Yep. And
A. Philip Randolph, I realized we haven't defined who A. Philip Randolph was.
I better do that as well. I should do that as well. Let me hold on a second here. Let's do that. I can put that up. See. All right, give me a moment here. Yes. And I've always basically said that A. Philip Randolph was the precursor to Martin Luther King, and that's never been properly given his due either.
King certainly said that he was inspired by Rustin, or excuse me, by Randolph. And I mean, labor leader, civil rights leader, pacifist. That's what a lot of people forget. He was an officer in the Committee for Sane Nuclear Policy. And I met him once too. I was a little kid. Walked up to him and said, "Comrade Randolph." He looked down at me and said, "Why are we comrades?" And I said, "Because I'm going to become a member of the Socialist Party like you are." And good. I must have annoyed that poor man. But I don't care.
Yeah. I imagine I always had this question asked. I have this question asked. The Socialist Party of America that became you said was officially the Socialist Party USA in the 1960s.
We used the name Socialist Party USA.
Yeah. By the 1960s, was it more racially diverse than the SPUSA that came out of it in 1973?
Oh, much more.
For some reason, I figure it might have been.
I mean, there were people like Norm Hill and Norman Hill, trade union organizer, black trade union organizer, and I can't remember her name. She was the delegate for Washington, D.C. It's not going to come to me. She was a member of the Young People's Socialist League. Julian Bond was a member of the Young People's Socialist League. I mean, how much was YPSL, Young People's Socialist League, involved with the Civil Rights Movement? Well, that's how Bernie Sanders got arrested. He was part of the YPSL organization.
Freedom Riders.
Mm-hmm. Freedom Riders.
Yeah.
James Farmer. I mean, these are all people who either were in the Socialist Party or were around the Socialist Party. People forget that the day after the March on Washington, the Socialist Party held a conference on civil rights, at which Randolph and Rustin and John Lewis and a lot of other very prominent civil rights leaders spoke. For a while, the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee was pretty much bankrolled by the League for Industrial Democracy, which was a front for the Socialist Party. They were paying Stokely Carmichael, later Kwame Ture, salary. He was a member of the Young People's Socialist League.
And for those that don't know what the League of Industrial Democracy, what it was a think tank for the Socialist Party of America, Socialist Party USA, kind of like an American version of the Fabian Society.
Yeah, that would be fair.
Yeah, so that's kind
it's
of the way.
A group to which a trade union could donate money. You could donate to the League without it looking like you were donating to the Socialist Party.
Yes, and all that. So let's talk about for a moment. Let's talk about since we're on the subject of the Socialist Party right now. Let's talk about the late David McReynolds, because I think we need to talk about him, considering it is Pride Month, and I think that he sort of, as a gay man, he sort of made history too, being a Socialist Party member and a gay man making history in 1980.
Yeah, first openly gay person to run for president.
Yeah, that's correct.
And the only presidential candidate I ever voted for twice.
I voted for him once in the year 2000, and when the Socialist Party were organizing to get him on the ballot. Back then, it was a write-in. It was the first time the Socialist Party, since the days of Norman Thomas, was able to be on the ballot in North Carolina. So we were very proud of that fact.
Yeah, yes. You did a lot of good work.
Yes,
that happened.
Yes,
you plural and you personally.
Yeah, so well, I mean, I don't get the entire credit. I mean, Vernon Kelly and Catherine Anne and about a dozen other people also get credit for this. This was definitely a collective effort, and we did have a nice presence in North Carolina while it did last. It so
it was a true flagship chapter of the SPUSA.
Yes.
And, I said you plural and you personally.
Yes, absolutely.
I recognize the hard work your comrades put in.
Yeah, and I look back, and I got burned out back then, but eventually, I mean, now I'm looking back, and I'm looking back some of the mistakes that I made from that time period, and what could have been done, and in light of what happened in the mid 2000s and all of that. Of course, for me, I was going through a lot of personal shit at the time, so I got very burned out. and
I took a rest from politics for about 6 years.
Yeah, I took I verbally talked politics, but I got burnt out as far as I just got in too many sectarian fights, and that's just what killed me. So, but it suffice to say, but David also always had a story to share, and he likewise seemed to have known just about every damn body.
He did know everybody.
Yeah,
I mean, that the Socialist Party USA pushed him out and accused him of being a racist.
And one of the most ridiculous accusations ever.
Yeah, they might as well have accused him of being a homophobe.
Absolutely, yeah. Over what happened in Paris, I mean, that was just ridiculous. What happened with with Charlie Hebdo. I mean, and to be more concerned. It was just kind of like they censure him. I'm like, how the fuck can you censor? Call him an anti. They basically accuse him of anti-Arab racism. Here's a man that fought for Palestinian rights, and a man that that's been involved with a lot of Middle Eastern politics as far as trying to put a stop to, in his own way, to a lot of this Middle Eastern wars that's been going on and being pushed by the United States.
Well, David was a professional pacifist.
Yes, he
was the field secretary of the War Resisters League, and for a while he was the international chairman of the War Resisters League. And yes, he very much worked for a peaceful settlement in Palestine, Israel. They also accused him of being a racist because they said that he accused Michael Brown of being thuggish.
I remember that. Yeah. And the thing about it is, the man, look at the age he's in. I'm not trying to be ageist, but I mean, the man is he was a beatnik in the 1950s that never outgrown being a beatnik.
Nope.
And I remember over the years talking to David. I was a smoker back then, and he used to kind of gently rag on me about it. He's like, that when you smoke, when you pick up your cigarettes and you buy a pack of cigarettes, you're actually giving money to people like Jesse Helms. I suggest that you smoke marijuana. And he was just like, he was telling people, smoke marijuana. And he didn't call it pot. He called it by its proper name. And when he talked about talk about himself being gay, he never said he was gay. He called himself a homosexual. I mean, he used the proper term. It's like, this is so 1950s, David.
Yes. David came out of that 1950s milieu and into the peace milieu in New York City.
Yes.
I'm very proud to have known the man.
I probably should put up that very famous 1965 photo that a lot of people associate with in the 1960s. 1965 Madison Square Garden. And that photo. Madison Square Garden. Okay, hold on a second here. Okay, if I can find it. Well, I guess that's probably going to be the best we can find here, but we'll use this one. The man in the middle, right? Oh, that's pictures too. That's what I don't like about StreamYard sometimes. Let me see if I can find a better one. Yeah, let me see if I can find a photo that's a little bit better than that one. Let's see. Same photo. Oh, well, actually, let's try this one. This should work. Hopefully.
Here's David.
Yeah.
He's a very tall man.
Yeah. Oh, my. Hold on a second. Why is that not working? Image. I keep downloading the damn thing. Hold on a second. Oh, why do I keep downloading? Okay, hold on. I'm going to find. If I don't, we're going to go back to that original photo.
What was that, Norman Thomas's celebration?
What now?
The photo that you had up, was that of the?
No. That was the 65 photo in Madison Square Garden in 1965.
Why were they in Madison Square Garden, I guess is my question.
Where they're burning the draft cards.
Ah, the famous draft card burning, yes.
Yes.
And David was too old to have been draft age, but still, he faced the same penalties everybody else did for burning his draft card. Yep,
and as I said, and again, here's this is a famous piece of history of the 1960s, and The average person, even people who are well versed in 1960s history, is even 1960s leftism. Sadly, a lot of people would not recognize the one of the peace activists up there was David McReynolds. That's kind of a crying shame.
It truly is.
Yes.
David's another person who doesn't get the recognition that he should get.
Exactly.
And by the way, he always went by David, never Dave.
Yep. So, did I say Dave?
No, you didn't.
Oh, okay. I thought I did.
We keep saying David, and I was thinking somebody might wonder, why don't you ever call him Dave? Or, if he was such a good friend, why aren't you on better terms with him? He preferred David.
Yeah, I think I've always called him David. Yeah, I think I'll call him David. Yeah. So, but anyway, getting back to, oh boy, I almost made a mistake. Okay, hold on a second here. Let me go ahead and let me do this, and we'll get back to the. Okay, right there. I'm sorry. Trying to maneuver everything here. Okay, so I guess let's talk about Cathy Ann, and and let's talk about let's talk about your experience, in your life and everything, if that's okay.
That's fine.
Yeah, okay. And tell us about tell us about yourself, and what it's like, and what can be done to protect the gains, and to prevent a backlash.
I don't know that I know the answer to that one. My first job out of college was working for the United Farm Workers of America, and learned a lot about organizing there. And then I went into academia for a while, got my doctorate, taught. And then I went to work for the United Automobile Workers, where I put what I knew about organizing to work. And of course, the UAW was at the time the most progressive union in the United States and the most left union. The UAW had pretty much financed the 1963 March on Washington. So I really felt at home there. I was in a car accident that prevented me from continuing to organize. And I met a young man who was transitioning from female to male, and I realized I needed to transition in the opposite direction. And I'm much happier. And it really scares me that anyone would want to force me back into the closet or take away my medical care. What about small government?
I've always wondered about that. The people who claim to care about liberty.
And we care about liberty. We care about small government. We want to drown the government in a bathtub. Yeah, except for having state troopers running around Tennessee looking for drag queens. I kid you not, there's a law in Tennessee that drag queens can't appear in public. So state troopers are looking to try to find them, like going from their car to the place they're performing.
What's so weird is it almost seems like it's more dangerous to go do drag shows now than it was 35, 40 years ago, which is
much more dangerous.
Yeah. During the age of what I remember about homophobia being a thing. I mean, and I tell young people, how things were back in the 80s, and maybe it's because I lived in a small town, but as I said, it was a very very unenlightened environment, and you don't have to be a member of the LGBTQ community to realize this, when sometimes you could be a quote unquote straight cisgender individual, and people could make assumptions about you that are not true. And as I said, which That's happened to me. People thought that was what I was all about when I wasn't and never was. But that had a lot to do with my mind being open, because it's like, if you want to attack me for something that I'm not, and I decided, well, hell, I'm going to start defending. Well, back then I said I'm going to start defending gay lesbian rights. Now I know I broadened that tent, LGBTQ plus, but I'm going to just start defending out of my pro-egalitarian principles that I've always had.
You've been a great ally.
I try to
Let
be.
me say, you really have been a great ally. And what scares me is almost the triangulation of attacks on the trans community. You've got the right-wing gas bags like Tucker Carlson. Well, you kind of expect that. Mm-hmm. And then you've got politicians that they influence, like DeSantis, governor of Florida. Well, unfortunately, you kind of expect that. But then there's the TERF movement, trans-exclusive radical feminists. I prefer to call them farts, feminism appropriating reactionary transphobes.
There you go.
I mean, they actually hold rallies decrying the existence of trans women. And then you got the left TERFs, which are some of our better allies on stopping the war in the Ukraine. The rally you were at, the Rage Against the War Machine, Anya Parenpal found it necessary to say from the stage, well, at least we won't be talking about men sleeping in cabins with little girls.
I definitely disagree with that particular thing she said. Yeah, I definitely disagree with that for sure. I'm sorry she's on the kill
list. If you
list.
one topic, then that you stay on topic.
Yeah. Sorry she's on the kill list, but I'm at the same time that's just not that's not helpful.
No, it isn't. It's not helpful that her boss, Max Blumenthal, maligned one of the most visible trans women in Britain and said that she was a government asset because she was part of an organization that met at, in a building called the Royal Society. Well, like if you or I were in a group that met at the American building or the Constitution building or something like that, that would make us government assets. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, I definitely, don't. I didn't see eye to eye with the accusations, or I just didn't see the connection there myself. So I agree with you on that one there. So,
but it really hurts. I mean, people like Jimmy Dore will poke fun at us. I don't want that from Jimmy Dore. It just seems that, as I say, it's a triangulation of fire. And we're getting hit from all sides. Now, the trans community makes up 0.6%, just 0.6% of the United States population. And that's a fairly expanded definition of trans. So 0.6%, Jews were 0.8% of the German population before Hitler took over. Fascism is on the march in the United States. They arrested 32 guys who are going to a pride celebration to disrupt it.
Yeah. What's crazy about this whole thing? It's just. I mean, if you believe in egalitarian principles, and that's supposed to be the basic bedrock core belief, if you're on the left, that you don't throw the trans community under the bus. You don't,
or any other community. You don't tell women,
or anybody.
Wait till we get wait till we get worker self-management, then we'll worry about women's rights. No, the fight's on right now. And
Yeah.
taking no side is taking the side of the oppressor.
Yeah.
I would think it's very simple to understand.
Yeah, I mean, just and that's the thing right there. But here's the thing. Well, getting regard to the foreign policy side of the situation, people will throw Russia as say, well, look how they're treated in Russia. Well, it's an Eastern European thing. It's all over Eastern Europe. You just can't say only Russia is horrible on the LGBTQ question. They are terrible on Russia is terrible on that question. So is the Ukraine.
Putin is terrible.
So is Poland. So is Hungary. I mean, they're all terrible on that question. Every one of those countries. And I'm not a cultural relativist. I mean, if a country's doing something terrible, I'm going to call them out on it.
And like you say, you're not a cultural relativist. Neither am I. What is evil is evil.
Exactly.
It remains evil.
Like I said the other day,
how can you support the Russian side in the war in the Ukraine? Because I think there's three possibilities. One is Russia wins. The other is there's a nuclear conflagration. And the third is there's a negotiated settlement. Now, obviously, I favor the third one. But nobody's listening to me.
No, we get called pro-Russian assets with this conversation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Obviously, Vladimir Putin would not like me, and I probably wouldn't like him. Although we could talk about judo. We're both judo black belts, so we probably could have a conversation on that subject.
Right.
But Willie, I'm telling you, I am afraid the vitriol that is coming out of the anti-trans movement to boycott Target because they had a pride section.
Well, here's the thing. I mean, people were getting upset at progressives for getting upset at Chick-fil-A a decade ago because the CEO said, I don't believe in gay marriage. And then they're like, oh, that's censorship. But when other side starts to boycott Target for that, I mean, for being pro LGBTQ affirmative, then all of a sudden, it's okay to engage in boycotts. I was like, a lot of these people are not very consistent.
Well, I grew up following the AFL-CIO boycott list. As Arlo Guthrie once cracked, it was strange growing up in the United States and not knowing what a grape tasted like.
Mm-hmm.
But as long as the UFW was on strike against the growers in California, we weren't buying table grapes. So I'm used to boycotts, and it's not censorship. Censorship is when I don't let someone talk. It's not when I disagree with them.
Yeah, some people think, yeah.
We had an issue locally. It was a group that wanted to ban the Confederate flag. I said to them, you can't do that. I don't like the Confederate flag. I've never owned one. I never will own one. But there's still a First Amendment. He said, oh, yeah, but it frightens people. That's a shame. And I wish that wasn't the case. But first of all, what you want to ban is not the Confederate flag. It never was the Confederate flag. You want to ban the battle flag of the Army of Northern Virginia. I wouldn't have taken down the statues in the South. I would have built statues to civil rights leaders and put them right across.
Very good.
I would have Sojourner Truth looking Robert E. Lee right in the eye.
Everybody got mad at me over that issue because I used to tell people, well, you don't have to go and destroy those statues. You just send them to a museum. Problem solved. The politically correct left hated me for it, and the pro-Confederate people hated me for it. shows you I'm correct.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, when both sides dislike you, you know you're right.
Yeah, exactly. Because it's like have a civil rights museum in every state in the South, and it's okay to have a Confederate section. And if somebody wants to go there, if somebody wants to go in there and get their little racist jollies off, I don't give a damn. But it just go ahead and it's part of history. But I don't want to sit there and put them up like there's somebody to be admired. I mean, now as far as the just but in this country you can't have people don't know how to have a conversation in this country about anything. Everybody's got to go into their corners, and nobody likes nuance.
No, and people easily forget things like we talked about Mr. Randolph, Bayard, and David. Sorry, I can't call A. Philip Randolph anything but Mr. Randolph.
Yeah,
they were forgotten, and now people are forgetting the first Pride was a real riot. And a black trans feminine person threw the first shot glass. Shot glass heard around the world. And the way Pride celebrations are set up now, you would never know that he was a trans feminine woman of color who kicked off the Stonewall Rebellion. And that's truly sad. For a long time, two of the real shakers and movers in the gay and trans community in New York, Sylvia Riviera and Marsha P. Johnson, they weren't even allowed on the stage at gay liberation marches and rallies. When other people in the LGBTQ community don't like you, this is a hard road to travel.
Mm-hmm.
And there are groups who they want to exclude the trans from the rest of the gay community.
Yeah, well, as I said, it's all about equality and all of that, and I just don't, I don't get it with that some people have, and I have trouble. And of all people, the for individual homosexuals and lesbians to have it's not just the transgender community, but also they seem to have a hatred toward bisexuals too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
and asexuals.
Yeah. So I mean, well, okay. That's not every single person. I have to backtrack that. There is a sizable part of the community that seems to not like those who are transgender or those who identify as bisexual.
There's still some feminists who feel like sleeping with a man is sleeping with the enemy. So if you're bisexual, well, you're cavorting with the enemy.
Oh my gosh.
I don't get it. I know it exists, but I don't get that attitude.
Yeah. Well, what's needed more than anything else is to continue to fight for equality, because I mean, when I don't want to make it like I feel like that when I talk about a Ben Shapiro or Michael Knowles or Matt Walsh, who are absolutely disgusting individuals, I feel like I'm sort of getting into the red team, blue team sort of deal, and I hate it, but I have to call it like it is. They are absolutely vile people. Now, as much as I dislike Ben Shapiro, I think out of those three, I think Ben Shapiro might be probably the one that might be the least prejudice of the three. I can actually almost see him being ashamed 20 years from now. Oh, I feel like shit for being this way. I could see him doing that maybe 20 years from now. And it'll be okay. But
a whole bunch of them are spawning stochastic terrorism. You keep running, you say, well, the gays are doing this and the gays are doing that, and somebody decides to visit a gay club with an automatic rifle.
Yeah, and you know, it's just getting to be it's beginning to be just the way it used to be 35, 40 years ago. It's like Jesse Helms would be smiling from his grave.
It's far worse. It's far worse for Black people. It's far worse for women. It's far worse for queers.
Yeah. Well, this is why I tell people one of the reasons I don't like guns, but I tell people I'm pro Second Amendment because you know what, if these crazy white right-wing militia types wants to go arm themselves to the teeth and everything, and you know, I think that everybody needs to defend themselves if there's a need to. And I oppose violence, but I'm just saying, you know, I'm glad there are groups like the Socialist Rifles Association that exists. Mm-hmm. Yeah, they have my.
And I became a pacifist at 16. I joined the War Resisters League. I believe that all war is a crime against humanity. And I think the civil war that's going on in the United States, this low intensity civil war, is a crime against humanity. And I'd rather not participate. If they would stop attacking me, I would be happy to let them live and let live. But they won't. And believe me, if they can damage the trans community, they're going after gays next, and then women, or maybe women and blacks at the same time, and Hispanics. Yeah. They want to cut anybody of color out of being able to vote. All the gains in the 1960s are being lost.
Yeah, and I, you know, is you know, when I used to in my younger years talk about the right wing menace and all that, I mean, it was a little bit of hyperbole at that time, but the hyperbole the hyperbole is no longer the case. I mean, you're hearing it from people. I mean, like I don't know if you ever heard of the radio talk show host Jesse Kelly, but he actually called for a dictatorship, and he was very serious about it, and he actually had a conversation with Tucker Carlson about the call for fascism.
Carlson is a fascist. He's right about the war in the Ukraine, but he's still a fascist.
Yeah, he's
a dangerous fascist.
Well, you know what's scary about it? He got fired from Fox News, but all the people and he's terrible, but all the people at Fox News are worse.
Yeah.
Hannity's worse.
Yeah, it's very much like the situation where the Ukraine is trying to kill Vladimir Putin. Don't they realize that the person who will take over when Putin's gone will be far worse than Putin?
That's what I heard. Harder line.
Whoever it is going to be a real hardliner and is going to have the Russian people demanding extermination in the Ukraine.
One person here on the chat line said they are trying to carry out a transgenocide, and Absolutely. They are. I never thought I would say something kind about Ted Cruz, but Ted Cruz condemned what's going on in Uganda with the penal code they're having for against the LGBTQ, the executions and the lengthy jail sentences and everything like that. And Kyle Kalinske was talking about this yesterday, and it's not like that Ted Cruz is pro LGBTQ or pro same-sex marriage or even just kind of live and let live or what have you. But he found the idea of genocide against the LGBTQ community just a step too far, and his right wing base basically said he's being too woke. Can you imagine Ted Cruz being woke?
No, that's not an adjective I would ever use for Ted Cruz. And I don't understand why that expression has become so reviled. Leadbelly, the famous folk singer, during his, I think it was his concert at Constitution Hall, said to the audience, "Stay woke." Means keep alert. Telling people of color in the United States to keep alert, yeah, good idea, real good idea.
But see, being woke is a catch-all for anything that's vaguely center-left. Mm-hmm. Now, so and I made the joke that when Mitch McConnell is 115 years old and a Senate Majority Leader later on at the age of 115, and he's like, well, they're going to go raise the retirement age to the age of 90. And the Democrats, being the wimps that they are, be like, well, maybe we can raise it up to the age of 85. And the right-wing people are like, what kind of woke shit is that? Raising the retirement age to 85. You follow Mitch McConnell and raise it to 90,
You do those impressions well.
I live in the South. That's all I can say.
I spent a lot of time in the South when I was organizing for the UAW. That's a job I could not have done as a female. Because every time I got arrested, I would have been sexually molested.
Yes, the South is, yeah. So
I got arrested 17 times, I think. So I tried to explain to them that there was a First Amendment and I had an absolute right to pass out leaflets urging people to join the union. But the guy who was arresting me had a gun, so I didn't want to argue the point too vociferously.
Yeah, and it's amazing when it comes to unions. That's the one thing about the First Amendment. It's like when it comes to the workplace, if they claim that the right wing claims that they're being victims because they can't proselytize people with religiosity at work, or they feel like their rights are being taken away because maybe somebody do not want to be referred to as by a certain pronoun, so their rights are apparently being taken away. So people's like, oh, their freedom of speech, but nobody gives a damn about the freedom of speech about labor organizers.
No.
Yeah.
I mean, I would try to explain to the police officer who was arresting me, to whoever was running the jail, that there's the First Amendment and there's the National Labor Relations Act. I have an absolute right to be doing what I was doing, but they put me in a cell and I had to wait for the lawyers from the International to bail me out. I was never convicted, obviously. I never even went to trial. But still, when I was harassed, I was arrested.
Yeah.
I'm relatively sure what happened to us in 2011 when my home was raided by the FBI, brandishing firearms. I don't think that would have happened if Seamus and I hadn't been trans. They wanted to make a point. Well, they made one. We beat them.
You can imagine what you went through with that episode.
Imagine waking up with a guy standing over you with an assault rifle. People say, well, your politics are pretty radical. Yeah, that'll do it to you. You wake up in your home. There's a guy standing there with a semi-automatic weapon aimed at your head.
Yeah.
A friend of mine, he keeps asking me when I'm going to become black. When you gonna turn black? So why do I want to? So if there's an oppressed group, you want to be a member of it.
No.
Okay, guilty as charged.
Yeah.
And I'm as class conscious as anybody I know, but I will be involved in the Pride celebration. I will be involved in the Juneteenth celebration. We've got a group that meets for folk songs and heavy political raps. I'm going to be involved in that. I'm going to be involved in disarmament, peace work, etc. And well, that's distraction from the class struggle. No, it isn't. That is the class struggle.
Yeah.
If somebody's struggling, that's obviously the class struggle.
See, I've been called. I co-host with Jimmy Sutherland sometimes on my show,
Mm-hmm.
and and I was telling her the other day that I've been called a class reductionist on occasion, and I know it come across that way, and all of that. But and I'll say this: I didn't say this to her, but I'm saying this now that I would say that if you are a leftist, if you're a real leftist. Whether you practice identity politics or not, everybody to some degree or another at some point will engage in some level of class reductionism. There'll be a time where it would. If you don't, you're not a real leftist, because that's at the crux
Because
of
we
what it
pretend
means.
in the United States we don't have classes.
Yeah, class struggle is at the essence of what it means to be a leftist. I mean, and and so there is that. And so what if you have other political interests that may not connect to that may be considered socially liberal or bourgeois or what have you, that's I consider important. I mean, so somebody, I'm not a vegetarian, but somebody who they're not necessarily being an asshole about it, but they want to go and tell you about how the virtues of being a vegetarian, how wonderful it is. Hey, that's what they want to do. That's what they want to do. I mean, I'm not going to sit there, if they're doing real good work on the left, I'm not going to sit there and take a crap on them because they're suggesting the virtues of being a vegetarian. I know that's a sloppy example, but that I'm just trying
that's a quite good example.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want a meeting on general left things turned into a lecture on veganism, but yeah, people have a right to be vegan. I have a friend who desperately wants me to watch this documentary on factory farming. No, why? You fight because if I watch it, I'll probably want to become a vegetarian. And I don't want to be a vegetarian.
Well, I'll tell you, I don't want to be a vegetarian. I love a steak. I mean, no offense to those who are vegetarians, and I know it's probably the smart thing to do. But I love my steak. I love my hamburgers. I mean, I love red meat. So
I'm not a big fan of red meat, but I like my fish and fowl.
yeah, well, I like it all, but I love my red meat. I love my steak. I gotta have. Oh my God! I mean, if I can't have a steak, I'm not happy.
Yeah. I think what we need in this country, and this is going to
can't be Jewish or Muslim either, because I love bacon.
No, I only eat pork once or twice a year, but
I love my ham. Oh, my ham! I got to have my ham. I know, so so I can't. As far as religion, I can't do Judaism with due respect to them. Can't do Islam with due respect to them as well. Just can't do it because I got to have my bacon and I got to have my ham.
Oh, I have to have my shellfish.
Yeah.
I can't eat crabs. No, I like eating crab. I love crab meat.
Yeah.
So no, I wouldn't make a good Jew either.
Yeah. So I mean,
but I think we need in this country. I'm going to run this by you. I think we need revolutionary social democracy. It's not my term; it's Rosa Luxemburg's. We have to use revolutionary means to achieve social democratic ends. The only way there's going to be national health care in this country is if there's general strikes.
Exactly.
Rolling general strikes will produce national health care, and that's all that'll produce national health care.
And these mealy mouth half measures irritates the fuck out of me because it leads to nowhere.
Yeah, and I talk about being arrested 17 times. I think Baird was arrested something like 40 times. He did time on a chain gang. He went to prison rather than serve in World War II. You know, nothing is going to come of half measures.
We're always talking about half measures on healthcare. I roll my eyes when I hear them talk about it. Well, we can't, and we're a public option, or lowering Medicare eligibility down to 60 is considered a hard left position. This is where we're at in this country.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that the Congress played so loose with just destroying the social safety net during the budget debate. That would have been time to have general strikes. Make clear, no, you've got to fund human needs. You can't spend all your money on fighting the Russians in the Ukraine.
Yeah, the AOC votes for $40 billion for aid to indirectly, and I'm using the term indirectly because I don't think in her heart of hearts she wants to give money to Nazis in the Ukraine. I'm going to give her that benefit of the doubt. I don't even think Kevin McCarthy wants to give money directly to neo-Nazis in the Ukraine. I'll be that fair. But here's the thing. I go and get mad at her because she votes for that $40 billion to go to Ukraine, but no, not even one step toward trying to fight for Medicare for to not do force the vote and everything. This is why I feel every bit of compulsion to trash on her these days. I've been trashing on her hard these days, and I hate it, but she deserves it.
Well, the Democratic Party is way to the right of where it was in 1980. Let's say 1984. I can't imagine a Walter Mondale being the Democratic Party's candidate today. And Mondale was backed by the unions the whole way through the primaries, right up until the general election. And that's not going to happen again.
The Democratic Party still has that Clinton stench, fingerprints all over. The DLC still lives kind of on. It may have dissolved in 2011, but it still lives.
Yeah.
And they won.
$125 billion would fund national health care, would house all the homeless, would provide relief from education debts, etc. There are important things in life that don't involve killing people. I mean, for Lindsey Graham to say, well, this is the best money we ever spent. It's killing Russians.
I heard that he was on a Russian kill list.
With an attitude like that, you could kind of understand why the Russians might be upset with him.
Yeah. I mean, I don't want him on a kill. I don't want him on a kill list either. I hate Lindsey Graham.
I don't want him to murder the guy.
I hate Lindsey Graham.
I want him to be a husband, but I don't want him to be dead.
Yeah, I don't want him whacked. I don't think he should be whacked. But I mean, but he is an asshole.
Politically.
Huh?
Yeah. Yeah. Unfortunately, the Democrats are becoming the same way.
Yeah.
I don't get it. I always find myself torn. Um, a friend of mine said I'm the only person he knows who could call both Michael Harrington and Michael Yates my friend. Mike Yates is the editor at Monthly Review and my mentor when I was an undergraduate. We did a 3-part independent study on Marx Capital. And so pretty much everything I know about Marxism, I owe to Mike. Both Mikes.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, I've
so
always
I'm
said. Go ahead.
torn between revolution and reform.
Mm.
So
Well,
that makes me a revolutionary social democrat.
well, I've always said that I was on the left side of social democracy, and I guess I still am, but I'm just probably more further left than I've ever been before. I told people 20 years ago, I used to define socialism as taking the present system, adding single payer health care, making half of the workforce or more unionized, and having that adjacent to our present system, and maybe adding some paid vacation time for workers, things like that, like a month off or something like that for every worker in this country. I'll be like, chef kiss, we are now a social democracy, or we're where we need to be. But I mean, it would be great if we could get there. That would certainly be a hell of a lot better than where we're at currently. But
That the agitation that it would take to get there would build a movement for actual socialism.
yeah, you got to demand. You got to demand hard things. I mean, we can't even get $15 an hour here yet. We can't even get beyond 725. And what was it, Bush? What was it under Bush that we got 725?
Yeah. I was in Paris one time with my family, and we're driving. We're in a tour bus, and the bus driver says, "Those are new trees that were planted to replace those that were destroyed in the mid 1800s or the late 1700s. Those are trees that were planted to replace those that were destroyed in the mid 1800s, and those are trees that were planted to replace those that were destroyed in the 1960s." And my cousin says, "So they cut them down for barricades."
Oh my!
The French Revolution, the
Yes.
rebellions of 1848, the Paris Commune, and the student strike at the Sorbonne in '68. Yeah, well,
May 68. Yeah, yeah. Gosh, we need our own May 68 movement.
oh, do we ever? We need a movement like the French are having now.
Oh yes, yes. We need something like what the French are having now. We need something like the what happened in Portugal in 1974.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, which I'm looking forward to doing that next year. Going to next year, hopefully, knock on wood, I'll going to Portugal next year. And going to spend hopefully about a week in Portugal and Spain. And looking forward to that. And you know, and just going to celebrate that 50th anniversary of the Carnation Revolution.
Really? Is it that long ago?
Yeah, it's going to be 50 years old next year.
I'm so old. I
Now,
remember it
question
happening.
for you: I know you remember it when it was happening. So, what I mean, was it just like a headline on the news? I
Mm-hmm.
mean, how did it reach you?
It was on the news. They definitely covered it, and but there were left magazines at the time that covered it in depth, and I don't remember which ones. My memory's not that good, but I remember reading in-depth articles about the Carnation Revolution. Um, so I guess I'd say the mainstream media sparked my interest. That led me to find um, actual documentary source. Now with the mainstream media just being stenographers for the government, I wonder how many people are missing out on finding, sort of first-person source material. But that's why there's independent media. That's why there's the Willy Bragg Show.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. Well, I tell you, we got to struggle ahead to seek this justice for everybody and everything. So, and we keep the good fight going. What they call it, fight the good fight. So that's what one has to do.
That's, did work.
Exactly.
My first boss used to say, when you organize, you talk to one person, then you talk to another person, and then you talk to another person. And when you get to the 100th person, you got to go back and talk to the first person again because they've forgotten what you said.
Right.
It's a hard road, but it's the only one. It's the only one that's going to let us survive.
Well, I'm going to have to go right now because I got to get some sleep.
I've got a radio interview this afternoon, so yeah.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Good luck on that radio interview, everyone. This is Catherine McCloskey Ross, and I forgot to put your information on the description box. But you know what? When I get offline, I'm going to put all your information to follow you on Twitter. And do I put your Facebook down or what?
Yes,
go ahead. Okay, Facebook and your YouTube situation. You do have plans for a podcast soon, I understand. Am I correct?
Yeah. Yes, we Margot Blevin, who you know.
No, absolutely.
Sorry, Margot Schulter.
Yes.
Margot Blevin's another friend of mine. And I are planning to do a podcast on the Socialist Party of America channel.
Okay.
We just have to get it together.
I beg your pardon?
There's so many things to do. I'm busier now retired than I was when I worked.
That's always the way it seems to be. So, okay. Well, listen, we'll I'm gonna have to have you back on the show again, and all that, and good luck on your interview this afternoon.
Thank you.
All right.
And
so
let's hope that Pride gets together locally.
I hope so. I absolutely hope so. So, to everyone, this is Catherine Anne McCloskey. I will put down all her information below, her contact information on Twitter, YouTube, and on Facebook below in just a few moments when I log off. So I just want to thank her for coming back on the show once again.
Thanks for having me, Willie.
And hey, just imagine, hey, remember the first time you were on the show? Remember there was a lot of screeching and echoes and all of that. We got that correct.
Yep.
Well, yeah. So yeah, we finally got that correct. It was so anyway. So everyone, if you like what you heard, press like and comment any way you disagree with what I have to say, and feel free to share the content on this channel. And First Amendment absolute. This is my duty to inform everybody to create your own platform and utilize it, because we are the muckrakers of our time. I can't stress that enough. And here on YouTube, feel free to hit the subscription button and the notification bell. Follow me on Twitter, Facebook, and follow me on Twitch. Follow me also on Rumble, because I will figure that damn thing out and find out how to stream it from it properly. And until next time, always reject corporate media, please do, and try to get several perspectives as much as possible. I am Willy Bragg.
I'm going to say power to the people.
Power to the people. And Catherine, if you stick around, I'll talk to you real quick as soon as I sign off here. So then I'm gonna do what I need to do. So everyone, have a great evening.
Happy Pride.